Welcome to Fluxedo Junction. I'm Scott Kuchler. Each episode, we bring you the best music of all genres from throughout the world. And this week, we'll be speaking with Yvonne Innes, a writer and acclaimed garden designer. She's best known for her landscape From Life to Life, A Garden for George, a floral tribute to her friend George Harrison. From 1962 until his untimely death in 2019, she shared her life with Yvonne Innes, the driving force behind the Bonzo Dog Band, collaborator with Monty Python and its individual members, co-creator of the Rutles, and an internationally beloved creator of comedic songs. Yvonne accompanied Neil throughout his career and previously documented his solo excursions with her popular tour diaries. Today we'll be speaking with her about her latest book, Dip My Brain in Joy, A Life with Yvonne Innes, the official biography. But first, let's start things off with some music. Here's Yvonne Innes with his 1973 song, How Sweet to Be an Idiot, here on Fluxedo Junction. The book is lovely. I've really enjoyed it. In fact, I'm on my second read-through now. And I wonder, I know that for a while you were doing tour diaries and were sort of obviously you were there for everything and you were documenting all this, but how long did it take to really turn this into the book that's out now?
Not very long. I had a very enthusiastic publisher who didn't really leave me alone, and so it was quicker than it should have been. In fact, I would have liked another 6 months to work on it and put all the things that I had to leave out. But I would say it was under a year. It was well under a year, actually. It was probably about 9 months.
I mean,
I do get up really. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Same here. I'm one of those people too. It must have been a huge undertaking to cover all this material. I mean, he was involved in so many things, and it's such a unique mind that he must have had. I mean, he was really adept at every kind of art, whether it was, music, obviously, but visual art and writing and comedy. And a lot of times people like that in their private life can be the least interesting people. You know what I mean? Like the people who are the most creative and the most brilliant sometimes are the ones who are the least engaging when you meet them at a party. But I don't get that sense from him, or from you for that matter. Let's not forget that you're as creative as he was, and we're part of this whole thing. And of course, you're a garden designer and a writer, and I'm sure it was a lovely creative home that the two of you shared.
Yeah, it was, and Neil was as nice in company as well as good at company. I mean, when Neil came into a room, it was like he took it over. He couldn't help it. He was just so fond of. He loved people. He loved situations like that, and in a way, they fed him for when his quieter times when he was writing songs. He needed both very much, the quiet times and the sociable times.
Now, I first became aware of him. I'm 50. I just turned 56. So my introduction to his art and music was through the Rutles, primarily. That's where it came from first. And then I kind of dug my way back from there. And I love that sort of thing where you kind of do that archaeology where you find something you love and then you dig back and you dig back and you dig back. Until you get to not just the entire body of work of the person that you're investigating, but then you start getting into the things that they were influenced by. And my impression is that you and he were influenced by the same sorts of things. Is that true? And can you talk about some of the things that you were both influenced by?
Well, the Bonzos were influenced. I mean, I suppose Neil was always influenced by artists like Man Ray.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be stumbled now because anyway, that artists of that era, he loved anything off the wall, anything poets that didn't rhyme. I mean, anything that was. I don't know whether influence is the right thing. I think it's more people. I mean, he was very influenced by the people he met, like George Harrison, me by Olivia, because her garden was exceptional, and it was like trying to working there was inspired me hugely in my own work.
Oh, sure.
And I think probably it was living people that inspired us both. He loved meeting the Pythons. After the Bonzos, which was chaos and wonderful chaos, he then started working with the Pythons, which wasn't chaos, but in a way, his influence, or his strong chaotic influence, came through the Pythons when he was with them. So they loved the anarchy of the Bonzos, and Neil loved the putting things together of the Pythons and the comedy and the fun.
Sadly, the only opportunity I ever had to see him perform live at all was just his participation in the Python's tribute at the Concert for George. But I've been able, since reading the book, of course, I've gone to YouTube and I've investigated every live performance that I can find. Whether it be, a full band performance or just him doing something at the guitar or the piano. And I have such respect for anybody who can get up there and just perform like that on their own with one instrument without anybody backing them up, Like he really had the talent. He didn't have to rely on the people around him. It sounds like he liked to rely on the people around him, and I know that he had his collaborators that he really counted on, but it's so obvious that he was completely capable of doing it on his own. Was he like that at home? I mean, was he just one of those people who always had a guitar yeah?
He loved doing it by himself, and the thing is, when he did it by himself, I usually went with him. But the thing is, he was free to do exactly what he wanted, or to alter the program exactly how he felt it was going. Whereas with a band, you can't be quite so free as that. But I would say that he loved solo performing as much as he loved being with a band.
Now, like a lot of artists, I know that the business end of things were a burden at some point, whether it was the loss of publishing around the Rutles material, or just the same sorts of things that any artists have to deal with. But towards the end, I wonder if through the digital community, if he must have been thriving with the ability to just connect with people online and create online and sort of kind of manage your own affairs at a certain point. Did it actually work that way towards the end? Was he more in control of his own destiny than he had been before? No?
No, not really. No, he was exactly the same. I mean, he struggled all his life to control anything around him, like the management or the way he got paid. Or then, in the end, it was he was still struggling because, I mean, to him, his work was the most important thing, and he should have had a manager, but he would never listen to what the manager said. So it was hopeless. But the point is, he should have had, because then he could have. Then he might have not lost so much in money that he did lose, and to not worrying about pushing people or hassling. He couldn't bear that sort of thing. So he was always, that side of his work was a struggle for him. And unfortunately, it was a struggle for me too. So I could have, if I'd been a breadhead, if I'd been an accountant or something, we could have, it would have been good for Neil.
Yeah.
But, as it was, neither of us were very good at with money or with that sort of thing.
I suppose creatively, it's a fortunate thing that you and he occupied the point in history that you did, because there were all of these weird opportunities that popped up. It's not the kind of career that you could have predicted. When you read the book and you just see how he moved from one project to the other, and all these projects they're wonderful. They're so wonderful, but they're also all so odd. Grimm's, the work with Python, all of it is the Rutles is the most unlikely thing. The Bonzos, of course, is just defies explanation. But I guess, there were a lot of other even stranger things happening, from the 1960s up through the early 2000s. It's a unique period in time for creative work. Do you think that if he had been around earlier, like he might have been part of the Dadaist movement, or, like it would have come out one way or the other with him, I guess, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I think so. But, I mean, the age we were was, when we were at college, we were sort of the first age to be free of all the 50s restrictions and stuff, and we had such freedom in the 60s, and that's when so many brilliant musicians, poets, and writers came from those years, because it was like being able to breathe suddenly. And you're right, there were so many different influences. And Grimm's, for me, Grimm's was one of the most important ones, because the show was absolutely sublime. There were really two Liverpool poets and comedians and brilliant musicians. And he went from one to the other with great ease.
Well, I'd like to wrap things up by sort of concentrating more on you and what's next for you. Of course, now, this book, I'm sure, was a huge undertaking, and now promoting it is probably taking a lot of your time. But do you have any projects planned for the future, whether it be more writing or more garden design? What's on the horizon for you?
Well, I think more. I'm writing children's stories at the moment, but more writing, but really relaxing, because we spent the whole of the last 2 years organising. Well, the book was one thing, but the concert at the O2 for Neil, where we got together all of the people he'd worked with, most of the people he'd worked with, but we had, there were many who couldn't come, but we had about 50, 60 performers we had to fit into the normal 2.5 hour slot.
Wow.
And that took some doing. Every week we had to meet and work out exactly where we were with it. It was held in the O2, and it was brilliant place to have a gig, and it went really well, although you have to say it wasn't the slickest show I've ever seen, because I think Neil had something to say about it. He said, "I've never done a slick show yet." I know, I've never done a slick show, and I don't intend to do one now. And it wasn't a slick show, but it's exactly like it would have been if Neil had been there.
That's one, in a way, that's beautiful. Just to wrap up, I just want to express my admiration for you. First of all, the book is very well written. It's a very, very pleasant and fun read. And just your love for him and your respect for his work is obvious in every word, and it's clear to me that you were probably, I'm sure, no doubt, the thing that he relied on the most. And I'm just so grateful, not just for the book and for you sharing your journey in your life and your stories, but also for just taking a few minutes to speak with me today. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Yes, it's fine.
You've been listening to Fluxedo Junction. You can visit us on the web at podpage.com/Fluxedo-Junction. This show is a production of ABCs of Music and is produced by Will Angeloro, Jamie Malinowski, and me, your host, Scott Kuchler. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.